He was no ordinary criminal. From the moment his name hit the headlines, fear gripped the nation. His real name hardly mattered. People knew him by what he became: the Butcher of Cell Block 9, a man whose past was soaked in blood, chaos, and psychological terror. Before his capture, he was wanted in connection with at least 6 brutal murders across 3 states. Each crime scene was a picture of rage: bodies torn apart, messages written in blood, and not a single fingerprint left behind. He was a ghost with a thirst for violence, and for years, he outsmarted police forces, surveillance systems, and even bounty hunters. When he was finally caught in a remote, abandoned farmhouse deep in the woods, it took a SWAT team, 3 helicopters, and over 12 hours of negotiation. Even then, he smiled during his arrest, as if he knew the story wasn't over yet. Judged unfit for a normal prison, he was sentenced to life in one of the most secure supermax facilities in the country. Surrounded by steel, concrete, and constant surveillance, most believed it was the end of his reign. But life inside the prison was anything but quiet. From day one, guards were uneasy around him. He barely spoke, but when he did, it was chilling. Inmates who crossed paths with him ended up in the infirmary: broken bones, bruised ribs, some even driven to madness. Whispers spread. He was playing a long game. Despite the red flags, the prison staff treated him like just another inmate. Routine, predictable. They were wrong. As days passed, his behavior grew darker, stranger. But no one realized what he was planning, not until the blood started flowing behind bars. It started like any other day in the prison. The air was thick with routine: morning head counts, meal trays clanging, and the cold silence of hardened criminals. No one sensed the storm brewing behind one man's dead, emotionless eyes. For months he had been studying the guards, timing their shifts, memorizing their movements, watching how they interacted. Every glance, every step was calculated. He befriended a janitor, traded information for favors, and used scraps of metal, toothbrush handles, and melted plastic to craft 2 deadly shivs. Hidden inside the hollow frame of his metal bed, the weapons waited. Then came the day. At exactly 9:47 a.m., he triggered a fake medical emergency, collapsing in his cell. Officers Peterson and Ramirez responded, just like they always did. As soon as the cell door buzzed open, he struck. One blade straight to Peterson's throat, silent, swift. Ramirez fought back, but the second shiv found its mark, piercing through his vest and into his ribs. Within seconds, both officers were on the floor, bleeding out. The security cameras caught only flashes, blurred motion, chaos. He had planned it that way. He knew the camera blind spots. He dragged both bodies under his bunk, changed into a stolen guard uniform, and calmly walked out as alarms began to wail. By the time the prison went into full lockdown, he was already gone. Blood-smeared walls, stunned inmates screaming, guards scrambling. No one could believe what had just happened. 2 of their own murdered in cold blood. And the killer vanished. No footprints, no trace. Just a cell soaked in red and a legend born in terror. He hadn't just escaped prison, he had shattered the illusion of control. A monster was now free, and the world had no idea what was coming next. His escape wasn't spontaneous. It was a masterpiece of manipulation, patience, and precision. Over 6 months, he crafted a plan so intricate, even seasoned investigators would later admit he outplayed them all. It began with small manipulations. He started earning the trust of a young guard, James Keller, just 24, new to the job, and vulnerable. Through subtle conversations and fake vulnerability, the prisoner convinced Keller he was a changed man. Slowly, he convinced him to bend rules, first for extra food, then longer recreation time. Eventually, Keller unknowingly passed along small tools, wires, and even a keycard. At the same time, he discovered flaws in the prison systems: broken motion sensors in certain hallways, a malfunctioning security camera outside the laundry area, and an outdated door lock in the west corridor. No one noticed these gaps, but he did. On the day of the escape, after killing the two officers, he used Keller's keycard to bypass 3 locked checkpoints. Surveillance footage showed only his back in a guard's uniform. One camera caught a brief moment, him staring straight at it with a calm, eerie smile. By the time authorities pieced together the clues, he was miles away. Interviews with prison staff revealed cracks in the system, ignored warnings, overworked guards, and a dangerous underestimation of the man's cunning. The warden was suspended, an internal investigation launched, but the damage was done. A nationwide manhunt began within hours. Highways were shut down, airports placed on alert, and his face was broadcast across every news channel. The public was warned, "He's extremely dangerous. Do not approach, do not engage, call authorities immediately." But deep down, everyone feared the same thing. He was already too far gone, lost in the shadows, and he wasn't done yet. The moment he slipped through the cracks of the prison system, he became more than a fugitive. He became a ghost, a shadow drifting across state lines, always watching, always calculating. While law enforcement flooded cities, airports, and border crossings, he was already gone, blending into the underbelly of society where no one asks questions and everyone minds their own business. Sightings came pouring in. A man matching his description seen at a gas station in Arizona, gone before police arrived. A silent figure caught on a security camera in rural Nevada, face obscured, but the walk unmistakable. In Wyoming, a trucker claimed he picked up a hitchhiker with cold eyes and a quiet laugh. No fingerprints, no trail, just whispers. He didn't just hide, he played games. A police station in Oregon received a handwritten note, "Still breathing, still watching. You can't cage a storm." It was signed with the names of the 2 officers he had murdered. The handwriting matched his. It was him. Panic gripped the public. Schools closed early. Curfews were enforced. Talk shows, news channels, and podcasts couldn't stop talking about him. The media branded him America's nightmare. Every photo of his face brought shivers. People began double-checking locks, avoiding lonely roads, and looking over their shoulders. Desperate, authorities turned to his past. Childhood files, psychiatric records, old teachers and neighbors were interviewed again. They searched for patterns, trying to decode the mind of a man who had mastered unpredictability. They learned one thing. He was always watching. He didn't make mistakes. Every move was deliberate, every close call was part of his game. In some cities, he left behind strange symbols or items only investigators would understand. Messages from the shadows, reminders that he was close. He stayed just one step ahead. Never 2, never out of reach, just close enough to haunt them. The manhunt turned into obsession, but while they chased shadows, he was already planning his next move. Not to run, to strike again. For months, the country held its breath. Cities were locked down. Highways were monitored. His face appeared on every screen, yet he remained elusive. Until one foggy morning in a small Montana town, the silence shattered. A hunter deep in the woods stumbled upon a cabin, abandoned, except for a fire still warm, and a notebook on the table. Inside were disturbing sketches, coded notes, and newspaper clippings of his own escape. Within hours, the FBI surrounded the area. Drones swept the forest. Search teams combed through trees, and snipers waited for a target. But he was gone. Again. Some say he died in those woods, eaten by the wilderness. Others believe he changed his face, took a new name, and vanished into a crowd. No body was ever found, no trace left behind. Only one chilling line was scrawled on the last page of the notebook. "Some monsters aren't meant to be caged." The news of his possible death, or escape, rippled across the nation. The families of the 2 murdered officers wept, not in relief, but in torment. They had no closure, no justice, just a never-ending question. Will he ever return? Surviving guards and prison officials resigned or were dismissed. The warden faced public humiliation, and the Department of Corrections launched one of the largest internal overhauls in history. Solitary confinement policies changed. Surveillance systems were rebuilt. Training became more rigorous. But the damage to public trust was irreversible. Debates erupted in Congress about prison safety and mental health. Protesters demanded accountability. News outlets rehashed the case week after week, each time adding new layers of speculation and fear. In bars, on forums, and around campfires, his story became legend. Children whispered his name like a boogeyman. Criminals feared him. Even seasoned officers avoided speaking of him out loud. Some say he's still out there, watching, waiting, and maybe that's what he wanted all along. Not just freedom, but to become something more than a man. A myth. A nightmare no prison could hold. And in the silence he left behind, one truth echoed. Some monsters aren't meant to be caged.